Hey guys, what's going on? Megan here. Alright, the videos are back as promised. Had to do my usual break. But anyway, let's get straight to it. So the top shoulder exercises for nucleus overload. Right? Do not confuse this with the back shoulder exercises in general. It's a completely different criteria. Alright, so let's start. Obviously the criteria for nucleus overload exercises are the same. Number one, it has to be an isolation movement. Number two, it has to have a low injury risk. Number three, it has to reduce muscle damage as much as possible or keep it to a minimum. Number four, it has to provide very low CNS fatigue. And number five, it has to give you a great pump, right? So if you have all five of those, it's going to be a S exercise. All right, let's get started. All right, standing overhead press, one of my favorite exercises and one of the most recommended exercises in almost all of my programs for hypertrophy, strength, and even for fighters. But for the case of being a case of nucleus overload, I'm not going to rank that high. That's going to shock a lot of you guys. It's going to go in D tier, right? It does not check the majority of the boxes for what makes a great nucleus overload exercise. It's a great movement for everything else that I mentioned earlier, right? If you're a fighter, if you're trying to increase strength, if you're trying to just focus on a big compound movement for shoulders in general. But to isolate the shoulders for nucleus overload, I cannot rank that higher than D. Next, we have seated shoulder press. That's going to go in C. Again, to avoid repeating myself over and over again, just look at the criteria and you'll know why I have it in C tier. Standing shoulder press, barbell version. That's going to go in C tier for nucleus overload. Next, we have standing military press, but using dumbbells. Same thing. That's going to go in D tier. Next, we have seated behind the neck press using the barbell. I'm going to put that in C tier for nucleus overload. And again, remember guys, if this was an overall shoulder exercise tier list, those movements would be at the very top. Not S tier, but they'll be very up there. But again, be reminded, this is for nucleus overload where you want to reduce damage, reduce fatigue, and prioritize isolation movements. Next, we have seated Arnold press. I'm going to put that at C tier as well. Next, we have standing upright rows with a shoulder width grip or slightly wider apart. That's actually going to go in B tier. Next, we have close grip upright row. That's also going to go in B tier for nucleus overload. Next, we have seated dumbbell front raises, one arm at a time. That's actually going to go in A tier, right? Again, obviously, if you focus on your front delts. All right, next we have the basic lateral raise, right? That's going to go in A tier, obviously, for nucleus overload. And by the way, this is using dumbbells. Next, we have same thing, lateral raise, one arm at a time, using an incline bench. That's going to go in A tier as well. Next, we have standing front raise using the barbell. That's I'm gonna put that in A tier, right? I was tempted to put in B tier, but I put in A tier. It's not that taxing on the joints. The risk of injury is low, blah blah blah. All right, next we have one arm lateral raise using the cable. That's gonna go in S tier. S tier, no doubt about it. It's an isolation movement. The risk of injury is low, low muscle damage, low risk of CNS fatigue, and obviously a great pump. All right, next we have the bent over reverse flies using the cables. That's also going to go in S tier. An amazing exercise for nucleus overload and your real delts. Next we have dumbbell lateral raise, but leaning away from the wall. That's going to go in A tier. Next we have bent over reverse flies using dumbbells. That's going to go in A tier. Next we have seated reverse flies using a machine. Oh my goodness, that's going to go in S tier for nucleus overload. Next, we have seated lateral raises, bent arm using the machine, where your arms are bent at a 90-degree angle. That's going to go in S tier for nucleus overload. Next, we have standing lateral raises using the machine. Very few gyms have this, which is sad. But that's obviously going to go in S tier. Next, we have face pulls, standing face pulls. That's also going to go, oh, by the way, using the cable and the rope apparatus, that's also going to go in S tier. Next, we have standing reverse flies using the cables. That's going to go in S tier, obviously. Next, we have the trap bar overhead shoulder press. That's going to go in D tier. I used to love that exercise. That's me, by the way, from years ago. Next, we have seated shoulder press using a machine. Almost every gym has that. That's going to go in it's going to go in C tier as well. Next, we have a similar exercise by using the hammer strength, right? See this shoulder press using the hammer strength machine. That's also going to go in C tier for nucleus overload. And we have two more shoulder pressing exercises, which are pretty much the same motion, just using different machines. They're all going to go in C tier. And I say, guys, that's the best shoulder exercises for nucleus overload. Do not confuse that with the best overall shoulder exercises, right? The list is going to be completely different. All right, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and support the channel on the website. Stay tuned for the next one.